Gujil has welcomed the interest shown by the President of the Republic in the issue of national memory and his commitment to preserving the social character of the state. The Economic Community of West African State, ECOWAS, has said that most of its member states are ready to participate in a standby force that could intervene in Niger following last month's coup against President Mohamed Bazoum. And the permanent representative of the State of Palestine to the United Nations has sent 3 letters to the UN Secretary General, the President of the Security Council, and the President of the United Nations General Assembly, denouncing the killings carried out by the Zionist entity. Those were the headlines, and now the news in detail from Radio Algeria International. First in our news, the Speaker of the Council of the Nation, Salah Gujil, has welcomed the interest shown by the President of the Republic in the issue of national memory and his commitment to preserving the social character of the state. In an interview given to the Algerian television on the occasion of the celebration of the double anniversary of the North Constantine Offensive and the Sommam Congress, coinciding with the 20th of August 1955 and 1956, Salah Gujil highlighted the symbolism and importance of these 2 pivotal events in the history of the glorious November Revolution, praising the great interest shown by the President of the Republic in the issue of national memory. With regard to the management of public affairs, the Chairman of the Upper House of Parliament welcomed the policy of the President of the Republic aimed at enshrining the social nature of the state and taking charge of related issues. Finance Minister Aziz Fayed has chaired a working meeting in Algiers to examine the state of implementation of the National Financial Market Reform Program. The ministry said in a press release that the meeting held at the headquarters of the Ministry of Finance was attended by the chairman of the Commission of the Organization and Supervision of Stock Exchange Operations, COSOB, and representatives of the Treasury Department and the Accounting Management of the state's financial operations. The meeting provided an opportunity to review the main actions likely to revive the financial market as part of the gradual approach, taking into account the context of an environment of the national economy, given that confidence and stability are the fundamental pillars of any financial market. Still with the domestic affairs, the Minister of Foreign Affairs and the Arab Republic of Egypt, Sameh Shoukry, has received the Algerian ambassador to Cairo and permanent delegate to the League of Arab States, Abdelhamid Shbira, who presented him with a handwritten letter addressed to the Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi from his brother, the President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune. During the meeting, the Egyptian Minister of Foreign Affairs affirmed his firm desire to continue broadening and deepening cooperation between Algeria and Egypt and to intensify political consultation at various levels, praising the good level of economic cooperation between the 2 countries and the achievements made. For his part, Abdelhamid Shbira expressed Algeria's determination to promote cooperation between the 2 sister countries, particularly in the fields of investment, partnership and trade, by exploiting the great potential available both in Algeria and Egypt. In the Western Sahara File, units of the Sahrawi People's Liberation Army have carried out new attacks against the positions of the Moroccan occupying forces in the Hawza and Mahbas sectors, inflicting heavy human and material losses, the Sahrawi Ministry of Defense said on Thursday in its statement number 855. Advanced detachments and units of the Sahrawi Army carried out intensive attacks against the entrenchments of the Moroccan occupation forces in the regions of Fadra, Lograb in Hawza and Wadi Adamran in the Mahbas region, the statement said. On Wednesday, the same detachments carried out intensive attacks against the entrenchments of the Moroccan occupation forces in the Ros Dirat region in the Hawza sector. Now, the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, has said that most of its member states are ready to participate in a standby force that could intervene in Niger following a coup there last month. Defense chiefs from the 15-member regional bloc met in Accra on Thursday as part of the latest efforts to overturn the removal of Mohamed Bazoum, Niger's president, who was deposed in July 26 as part of a coup. Saad Bougazi has more details in this report.
All member states except those under military rule and Cape Verde are ready to participate in the standby force, ECOWAS Commissioner Abdel Fattah Musa said on Thursday. Democracy is what we stand for and it's what we encourage, Nigeria's Chief of Staff, General Christopher Gwabin Musa, said at the start of the two-day meeting in Accra. The focus of our gathering is not simply to react to events, but to proactively chart a course that results in peace and promotes stability, he added. The meeting to discuss Niger's crisis comes after an August 6 deadline passed for mutinous soldiers to release and reinstate President Bazoum or face military intervention. Mohamed Bazoum remains under house arrest with his wife and son in the capital Niamey. The bloc has long deliberated on the use of force, which it described as a last resort for weeks due to several mediation teams it sent to Niamey and also due to a lack of consensus within its ranks. Burkina Faso and Mali, which have experienced multiple coups since 2020, warned that any military intervention in Niger would be declared as an act of war, revealing a fracture in the region. Guinea, which is also under military rule and which has condemned any external aggression, has refrained from making any other comments.
Still in Africa, fighting between the Sudanese army and the Rapid Support Forces, RSF, has spread to heavily populated towns in Sudan. Al-Fashir, one of the main towns in Darfur, and Al-Fula, capital of the West Kordofan, according to local witnesses on the ground, quoted by media. According to the same sources, the situation is particularly worrying, and in Al-Fashir, where fighting between rival forces is spread into many districts. In the town of Al-Fula, capital of Kordofan, 800 kilometers east of Khartoum, the fighting continued to intensify from Thursday evening. Witnesses said the RSF clashed with the army and police, and in their exchange of fire, public buildings were set on fire. They added that shops have been looted and there are deaths on both sides, but nobody can get to the bodies in the chaos. Since 15 April, fighting between the rival parties has claimed 3,900 lives and forced 4 million people to flee their homes. 36 soldiers of the Nigerian army have been killed in an ambush by terrorists in Niger State, in the center of the country, the army said on Thursday. An army spokesman told a press conference in Abuja that a helicopter used to evacuate the victims was found crashed near the site of the ambush, bringing to 36 the number of soldiers killed. The cause of the helicopter crash remains unknown, and an investigation is still underway. A series of attacks by armed men has recently taken place in several areas of the country, the most populous in Africa, resulting in the deaths of civilians and members of the security forces. And the Somali army has eliminated 30 Shabab terrorists during an operation in the Galgaduud region in the center of the country, said a spokesman for the Somali Ministry of Defense. He added that the military operation was carried out in the Galariri district, where the terrorists clashed with the government forces. Some terrorists were also wounded during the operation. Government forces have continued to attack Shabab terrorists since President Hassan Sheikh Mahmoud declared an all-out war against the terrorists in 2022. To the Middle East now, where the permanent representative of the State of Palestine to the United Nations, Ambassador Riyad Mansour, has sent 3 identical letters to the Secretary General of the United Nations, the President of the Security Council for this month, i.e. the United States of America, and the President of the United Nations General Assembly. These messages address the ongoing acts of killing carried out by the Zionist entity, the occupying forces in the Palestinian territories, with occupation forces and settler militias continuing to target Palestinian civilians, including children, with violence without any deterrence or fear of consequences. More details in this report by our colleague Saad Bougazi.
The permanent representative of the State of Palestine to the UN, Ambassador Riyad Mansour, pointed out that the day before, Zionist occupation forces stormed the city of Jenin, resulting in the murder of Mustafa El-Kastumi, 32, and the injury of a Palestinian nurse. He also noted the murder of Qusay Suleiman, 16, and Muhammad Najum, 25, on August 15th during a Zionist aggression on the Aqaba Jabal refugee camp in Ariha. In his letters, Riyad Mansour highlighted that according to the international non-governmental organization Save the Children, 41 Palestinian children have been murdered by the occupation forces in 2023 alone. Despite this, the Zionist entity remains illogically exempt from the list of persistent violators of children's rights, which further reinforces their sense of impunity. Mansour reported that more than 700 Palestinians have been injured by occupation forces since the beginning of 2023, with many enduring lifelong disabilities as a result. He pointed out that Zionist settlers who have been illegally transferred to the occupied Palestinian territories, including East al-Quds, have become bolder under the hard-right Israeli government. Mansour also highlighted the displacement of at least 399 Palestinians as a result of settler violence from 7 Palestinian herding communities across the occupied Palestinian territories. Still on the diplomatic front, the head of the Brazilian diplomatic representation in Palestine has said that Brazil supports Palestine's desire to become a full member of the United Nations and will never abandon its support for the Palestinian people. During a meeting with the head of the Palestinian diplomacy, Riyad al-Maliki, the Brazilian diplomat Alessandro Candias invited the head of the Palestinian diplomacy to visit Brazil in the near future, saying that this invitation is part of the strengthening of bilateral relations between the two states. Palestine became an observer member of the UN in November 2012. The Palestinian authorities have been lobbying since that date to become a full member of the organization.
And Russian officials have accused Ukraine of launching a drone attack on a building in Moscow, causing an explosion that was heard across the city's business district. The city mayor said air defenses had shot down the drone, with its debris falling on the city's expo center. It marks the latest in a series of such attacks on the Russian capital. Saad Boughazi again.
There was no immediate comment from Ukraine, but officials in Kiev have never formally acknowledged launching attacks on targets in Moscow. Russia's defense ministry said on Telegram that there were no initial reports of casualties. The Expo Center is a large exhibition space used for conferences and conventions and is situated less than 5 kilometers from the Kremlin. Moscow's Vnukovo airport closed following the incident, the news agency TASS said, but reopened a short time later. Until earlier this year, Moscow remained untouched by the war in Ukraine, but in recent months it has been targeted by drones